Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I am Mick Alfini. There is a lot going on with the legacy financial system. It's not looking good for them, but it's looking great for us. But be careful out there in the legacy financial system. We're going to begin off with those articles. You can skip those if you want, skip those chapters and go right to the crypto chapters. But I think this is so important. By the way, this video is brought to you by the members only section. This first article is from the dailyhodl.com. Beware. It's titled, U.S. Banks Facing Significant Risk of Deposit Flight as Profit Margins Narrow, warns top ratings agency. Now, listen, this is startling in my humble opinion. I mean, really not to us, but to anybody who's just solely dealing with the legacy financial system. But for us, we're probably cheering and celebrating because we know the new financial system is getting that much closer to being deployed because of things like this. But there's been quite a bit. We've covered it. Quite a bit of deposit flight. You understand? Listen, so you have all of the deposit flight that's been going on. It's been mind-blowing, right? Mind-blowing. Now they're saying it's increasing. Then that means what for the liquidity of banks? That means they have almost no liquidity, but we already knew that. Not only do they have less liquidity, but look all of this up for yourself in case you want to know. All right, verify it. But not only do they have less liquidity, but because of certain constraints that the government wants to place on them and, lack of being able to do certain things. They're taking more risk, the banks. They're not in a good place right now. Let's scroll down here, read this little tidbit, okay? It says the credit ratings agency, Moody's, just issued a fresh warning on the U.S. banking system. In new research note, Moody's says it's cutting the ratings of 10 regional banks and is considering whether to downgrade a number of big lenders, including Bank of New York Mellon. Where have we heard that name before? Do you think they might want to deploy the new financial system a little bit faster? U.S. Bank Corp, where have we heard that name before? State Street, Truist, I don't know how to pronounce that name there. Financial, Cullen/Frost Bankers, and Northern Trust. All right, so now let's scroll down here. Says after a quarter of relative calm, Moody's says American banks are now facing the prospect of further deposit flight amid quote unquote eroding profitability and continued rate hikes from the Fed. And they're going to have to do more rate hikes because you saw that the inflation was up a little bit. Didn't I say that? Months back? For a long time, I had iterated that if they take their foot off the gas, it's just logical. If they take their foot off the gas, they do a pause, at any point, inflation would go back up. And then they did what? And now inflation went back up. So they're going to, and I posited that they were going to use that as an excuse to raise rates further because everybody would be screaming, oh, inflation's going up, and begging them to do what they needed to do anyway. But now the burden is not on them. The blame is not on them because they have the people begging them to do it, right? To solve a problem that they seemingly caused themselves. It says here, U.S. banks continue to contend with interest rate and asset liability management, ALM risk, with implications for liquidity. This is what I was just saying. Liquidity and capital. As the wind down of unconventional monetary policy drains system-wide deposits and higher interest rates depress the value of fixed rate assets. Oh my goodness. If people only knew, they just follow the entirety of the legacy financial system. They see what type of fire is burning there. So you know what's happening with bonds, right? Bonds are no longer a safe haven, baby. No longer. But T-bills is different. T-bills, they're still going to, do what they do with T-bills. But bonds, look into that. It says here, although the general drain on deposit funding caused by quantitative tightening moderated in Q2, there remains a significant risk that system-wide deposits will resume their decline in coming quarters. Here's another thing, and I don't have the article up, but there is a lot of banks are on alert just in case of bank runs. They were doing a lot of research into social media and how social media influences bank runs. And really, the crux of it was that when that bad information comes out about something going wrong with the bank, it spreads like wildfire and then people want to pull their deposits out. So now you have deposit flight with a heightened risk of bank runs at any point. That can happen at any time. That's what you can look up those reports for yourself. They're very easily found. These banks are in trouble. And if they go down, let me tell you what, if they go down, gold is going to skyrocket. Bitcoin will probably explode, a few other assets, and we'll see how it affects XRP and other things like that. But I anticipate more banks going down. They're in trouble. Let's go to this next article here. There's so much happening. Appreciate every single one of you being here today. I hope you're having a fantastic day. We took the day off yesterday. I hope you enjoyed your day. You got some relaxation and some love. This is from finance.yahoo.com, and it is titled, Banking Issues and Scams Are on the Rise. We've been covering this a lot as well. Be careful. I told you, these banks are not secure. It says, leaving customers facing an uphill battle for help. Let's scroll down here, see what they're talking about. As the legacy system falls and the new financial system rises. This is why I believe Ripple knew that they could sit in so many different meetings the last half of this year, going into next year as well. And I think continuing on with the banks, because they know how badly the banks need them. It's not just Ripple, Algorand, Stellar. You just can't talk about it just yet. Just about a week ago, an unknown number of Wells Fargo customers, is from the article Wells Fargo, so it's not from Alphany. Wells Fargo customers were suddenly unable to withdraw money from their bank accounts. What? You're going to play with my money? I don't like if people play with my money. Only I play with my money. When I was little, I used to dream about swimming in a giant pool of gold like Scrooge McDuck. Anybody out there, you ever seen DuckTales? Am I the only one who used to dream about things like that? Probably why I love gold to this day. Anyway, I know, get back to the article. Even as it sought to address the issue, which, by the way, DuckTales had an epic intro song, by the way. Yeah, if you don't know, go look it up. Yeah, I know. I grew up with DuckTales. I love it. It says, which customers first began noticing on August the 3rd, Wells Fargo acknowledged a, quote, limited number of customers were still facing difficulty 24 hours later. So they haven't even completely solved it at that time, leaving some of them unable to withdraw funds for critical needs. You don't say, of course. Everything, all capital is critical right now in this world. It says for Wells Fargo, it was the second time this year such a problem had occurred. The bank declined to comment when NBC News reached out for an explanation of the exact cause and scope of the issue. We've been saying this for a long time. People say, hey, Mick, no, the banks are fine. The economy is fine. It's not. Listen, but we have the solution. That's the point. We have the solution. It would be nice to have a further push to have the solution deployed. But I think at this point, with as many banks, I think that are going to go down in the next 2 years, I don't think they have a choice but to deploy the new financial system a little bit faster. They need the security. They need liquidity. They just told you they have a liquidity. There's a liquidity crisis going on. So anyway, let's continue on here. It says more recently, further investigation found that third-party imposters had created fraudulent accounts at Wells Fargo, for which the bank denied any wrongdoing and said the problem was widespread across the financial services industry. Is that so? Because I read a lot of financial information and I'm not seeing this reported everywhere. I mean, it doesn't mean it's not happening. I'm just saying, I'm not seeing it reported everywhere. Wells Fargo says the difficulties that Wells Fargo and Green Dot customers, I see a few banks, but not everywhere. Like you're making it seem like we all have that problem. Not all banks. It says difficulties that Wells Fargo and Green Dot customers. Wait, we skipped a part. What? There's other banks here. It says at least one other bank has also left customers scrambling to withdraw their money after an outage of unknown origin. So it was a bank run. As minor as it might be, that's a bank run. They're scrambling to withdraw money. It says some depositors with Green Dot Bank, the dominoes are beginning to fall. Depositors with Green Dot Bank, which works with Walmart, really, I didn't know that. But then again, I don't know anything really about Walmart except they're closing down stores. Works with Walmart, among other third parties, to provide financial services. Said they could not get money out of their accounts for days or even weeks. The difficulties that Wells Fargo and Green Dot customers encountered reflect a dramatic increase in complaints about financial service companies in recent years. They're on fire. What was is not what will be in the future. Everything changes. The only thing that is constant is change. The people don't want to accept it. A lot of us, I believe, it's not financial advice. We're going to make a lot of money off their downfall. We already are. We lived through one bull run already. People that bought XRP at a low before this recent verdict, they also made a good amount of capital. I'll say a good amount. It's respectable. We're going to continue to make a lot of money off this downfall of this old system that needs to be upgraded. And this is what all of the big money is trying to do as well. That's why they're trying to flood everybody out of here, and they're doing a good job. It says all categories of complaints have increased since the redacted. Okay, let's stop there. Let's move on to another article. I want to squeeze as we have a lot of articles here, a lot of good information. Use those chapters. All right. So now, here we go. This is from Reuters.com. A little bit different information, but it gives you an indication of where things are going. Economy is not doing well. That's another thing. The governments across the financial systems and the governmental systems, they all need the new financial system. That's why they're all sitting down in meetings with all these bank coin companies. It's from Reuters.com, and it says bankruptcy filings surge. First half of 2023. Didn't we say this was coming? We covered a lot of articles about this, and now it's been happening. It says here, U.S. Central Bank left interest rates unchanged in June, but sees 2 more hikes by the end of 2023. A total of 2,973 commercial Chapter 11 bankruptcies were filed in the first 6 months of 2023, Epic said, compared to 1,766 the same period last year. Additionally, individual Chapter 13 filings also saw a 23% jump during the same time period. Is going down, folks, as they say. I told you, businesses were struggling. Bankruptcy filings for small businesses. I said this too. I said this as well. Small businesses will benefit from the new financial system. Save money, traceability, be able to play with capital a little bit more. I said this, and just the controllers of this system are letting them go down. Bankruptcies for small businesses categorized as subchapter 5 elections within Chapter 11 jumped 55%, according to the data. All right, so that's from Reuters. Let's move on here. Another article here, all right? So now this article here is from Investopedia.com. Oh, there's some shady things going on in the legacy system, although they say it's all going so well. They're lying. Yeah, they're lying. We're going to make a lot of, in my humble opinion, it's not financial advice. It's just my humble opinion. I'm not a financial advisor. I think a lot of people are going to make a disgusting amount of money off the fall of this system. Investopedia.com. It says some banks are underreporting uninsured deposits. The FDIC says this. Wait, underreporting? I read a lot of articles on this. Guess what my interpretation of what they're conveying is? These banks are lying. They don't want people or organizations to know how much in uninsured deposits they have, because that is exactly what can take them down. So now, let's read this little tidbit here. It says, in the wake of this year's banking crisis, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, FDIC, is pressing banks. They're pressing them. We all know what that means. Someone roll up on you and they press you. Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. It says, it's pressing banks to fix the way they report uninsured deposits. You mean you want them to not lie? Or those that exceed the agency's $250,000 insurance limit, which is ridiculous in my opinion. It says, in a statement, the FDIC said that certain banks, quote, are not reporting, even though they're required to. They're not reporting uninsured deposits in accordance with the instructions to the consolidated reports of condition and income, unquote. In particular, the agency singled out the practice of banks excluding uninsured deposits backed by collateral. Really? Why? Oh, interesting. Why? We all know why. We know why. You're not doing so good, are you, legacy system? Can't hold us back for much longer. We're off to the races. We're going to dominate, yeah. Leading banks to understate the total amount of uninsured deposits. That's called telling a fib, telling a lie. The agency did not single out any bank in particular because they can't. They do want to get under control, but they don't also want to cause a bank run. Because if you heard what's going on, there definitely could be bank runs for sure. Who wants to lose money? Anyway, under the FDIC's instructions, banks must report. But wait, they're not. How does that work? But they're not going to get punished though, right? Which without being admonished, without being corrected, then the problem is going to only get exacerbated. It's going to continue, correct? Right. Which means that a lot of banks could fall in the near future. They've been falling so far, right? We got a few In the spring, we've gotten a few during the summer, although they kept that sort of quiet. And it looks like a lot of banks are in trouble right now. It says the FDIC instructs banks to, quote, make a reasonable estimate of the portion of these uninsured deposits using available data. Then they give you an example. Ooh, Investopedia is cooking today. It says how uninsured deposits fueled this year's banking crisis. Uninsured. See that? This is why they don't want to tell. They don't want the people to know what's coming. And guess who has the liquidity? Guess who? Listen, Stellar has liquidity. They can definitely drum up more than what they have right now. They definitely could. They're just not taking a lot of action. Ripple, XRP has liquidity. Volante, whoever's using XRPL has liquidity for sure. They have the liquidity. Oh, you don't know how to connect things? Quant can connect it all together, make it flow very easy. Algorand has the liquidity. Yeah, who do you think they're going to come through for liquidity? And here's the thing. We don't have to just get liquidity from US dollars. We can scrape you liquidity from everywhere. It's something that has to continue to be said so that understanding is had. Once again, we can create the biggest liquidity pool cushion of all time, and they need it. They need it. They're done for as far as liquidity is concerned. In my humble opinion, where are they going to get it from? Where? Let's continue on here. It says, and I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong. It says, uninsured deposits played a leading role in this year's banking crisis as the banks that went under, Silicon Valley Bank, SVB, Signature Bank, and First Republic, were those with the highest share of uninsured deposits relative to total deposits. So, if that's the case, and 1 + 1 = 2, then 1 + 1 = 1 now, because the mathematical surety does not change. What do you think is going to happen in the future with all of these banks having massive amounts of not only uninsured deposits, commercial real estate problems, losses, unrealized losses, their bonds, or if you know what's going on with bonds, oh boy. What do you think is going to happen in the future? Things are only growing for them, right? And victory is getting nearer and nearer for us, in my humble opinion. All right, so now, let's move on here, right? Now, I've already told people enough times that I think it's wise. I can't tell people what to do. You do what you want to do. But I think it's wise. Check on that bank. A little phone call. Make sure your bank is healthy. That's all I'm saying. That's what I would do if I was heavy in the bank. It says here, this is from now. We're getting a little bit of crypto news now. It says, this is from the cryptobasic.com, and it is titled, Top Trader Says XRP is a must-have in crypto portfolio. Sorry, I get excited sometimes. Sometimes I wonder, though, am I being too excited? I know some people listen to me like they're going to sleep. Sometimes people listen to me. It might be nighttime. My apologies. I hope I'm not too excited, but I can't contain my own natural energy. My apologies. Top Trader says XRP is a must-have in crypto portfolio. Of course it is. In crypto portfolio shares crucial entry points. Now, I don't know about that. Let's see what they have to say. I think everyone has to decide for themselves if they want to get in or not and where to get in or not. But yeah, crucial, I would say it's a potent one. Look at what we just discussed about the banking system. And they're there to help the banks. When the banks' lives are on the line, you think they're going to care what some regulator who lost the case is saying? I don't think so. That's why we're sitting in meetings right now. So renowned crypto trader and Bitcoin analyst Michael Vanderpop recently took to X, formerly known as Twitter, to share crucial insights about XRP. In the tweet, Pop confirmed that that's a cool name, Pop, right? Anyway, Pop confirmed that he was waiting for an entry point on XRP to potentially add more of the asset to his bag. The crypto analyst also noted that based on historical trends, he sees XRP pulling a stellar, is there pun intended on that? We got a good stellar chapter coming up, by the way. He sees XRP pulling a stellar performance among other altcoins in the coming bull season. I concur 100%. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Let's scroll down here. It says XRP should be in your bag. This is his opinion, not mine. You do what you want. I'm not concerned with retail at all. I want those banks. When those banks come in, oh, man, I can't wait. And the setup is still building, but it's looking beautiful. It says Pop concluded his tweet advising the crypto community that XRP should be a must-have in their digital asset portfolio. Meanwhile, the XRP market chart accompanying the tweet shed more light on the trader's targeted entry point for XRP. The chart detailed how XRP exhibited a historical trend, returning to a crucial peak point 470 days after. It says Pop highlighted that The development surrounding the regulatory case had created heavy impulse on the XRP market. However, he noted that due to the lack of interest in the broader crypto market, that's a good point right here. A good point being raised here. The XRP bull trend slipped into a correction. I think it's a healthy correction. I think we saw this coming. And according to him, the correction is relatively more significant compared to those of typical bull cycles. Interestingly, the prominent, but look at that consolidation that's been happening as of late. I think that's pretty solid, in my opinion, to have stopped right there. I don't know if you go lower, but I think that most of the people that are holding, keeping it right there, people, institutions, whoever are keeping it right there. And I think that's a good springboard point if you just continue to consolidate there until you get another big catalyst announcement, and then boom, maybe go up a little bit higher. So, a little bit at a time, just my humble opinion. Because according to him, the correction is relatively, we read that part. Interestingly, the prominent trader argued that such a pattern is what investors should look out for to scan for opportunities. Quote, that's the momentum you'll investigate higher timeframes and scan for those obvious opportunities, unquote, the trader noted in the chart. It says, furthermore, he expressed, I'm just going to read this a little bit here and then we're going to leave off here. Furthermore, he expressed that such periods of falling interest represent an obvious opportunity for investors. Moreover, Pop marked out a green area in the chart representing a retest on the weekly time frame. While the highlighted portion shows XRP with 56 cents and 63 cents, he noted that the area is the most positive to take entries for the coming cycle. We're going to stop right there. If you want to read the rest of that article, is from the cryptobasic.com. They're doing a great job over there. So it's very interesting. We're following two things at once. One, we're trying to benefit off of the fall of the legacy system. So we're monitoring that. That's very important because you want to survive that. That's number one, right? You don't want to lose capital. At least that's how I personally feel, right? You have to do what you want to do. Number two, we're keeping up with the deployment or the speeding up of the timeline, so to speak, of the new financial system. So there's a juggling act we're doing here. It's very interesting, right? It says here, I try to keep that in mind. It says this article is from the cryptoglobe.com and it is titled XRP holders to receive airdrop tokens from upcoming sidechain launch. I've seen a couple of articles about this. So let's read a little tidbit here, but I'm always very careful with any kind of free tokens given. I am, but this looks pretty legit in my humble opinion. It says a layer 2 network known for its goal to introduce smart contracts via hoops onto the XRP ledger, Evernote, has unveiled some of the details surrounding its upcoming airdrop for XRP token holders. It says the project created excitement within the XRP community earlier this year after it laid out plans for its upcoming launch. In April, it launched Evernote Beta, built on the Hooks V3 testnet, with an audit of this network to come in the middle of this month. It says Evernote's white papers details that after the official launch of the protocol, a significant volume of Evers, the protocol's anticipated native token, will be set aside for an airdrop aimed squarely at XRP holders. Now, I read a few articles on this. I don't know if it goes into this, and this article is pretty hefty here. But what I read was that if you have it in an offline wallet, non-custodial wallet, that they take the screenshot of whatever you have and then they'll accommodate you accordingly later on. That's sort of like what happened with Flare. That's what I read. I don't know if that's accurate. Just verify that, okay? If you're interested in this at all. Says per the protocol's recent announcement, the airdrop will involve 5.16 million Evers to eligible XRP holders and will be conducted through a two-step process. Okay, they're going to elaborate a little bit here. First, there will be a snapshot, there you go, of investors' XRP holdings on mainnet before an airdrop to eligible accounts on the Hooks sidechain is conducted. Okay, that's interesting. Evernote detailed that as the Hooks sidechain will include burn to mint, a snapshot of the XRP ledger will be necessary before the sidechain goes live. As a result, the project chose Friday, September 1st at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it looks like, as a snapshot date for users' XRP ledger balances. To be eligible for the airdrop, XRP holders will have to hold their tokens directly on chain rather than through a cryptocurrency exchange, according to the project. It's currently unclear whether any exchange will support the airdrop, all right, and distribute tokens to the holders, all right. Notably, as Crypto Globe reported, the XRP ledger has been seeing over 1.2 million transactions per day. We're going to leave off right there, okay? Once again, that's on the cryptoglobe.com. If you want to read the rest of that article, screenshot it, download it, all right? So now, we are going to move on here. This article, we're going to go back to the cryptobasic.com. Hopefully everything looks good with my camera. All right. Now, the angle of the camera, I always have to adjust. So that's why sometimes things might look sideways or such. Like the camera's just strange, but I love this camera, though. It never fails me. So anyway, people complain about that a lot. Like the background, like it's just the camera. My apologies. So this is from the cryptobasic.com. I love every single one of you out there. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for sharing in this research with me and to being my partners on this journey here in this, when you do research can get lonely. It can, your mind wants to find pieces to the puzzle. Your mind wants to know, but not everybody else wants to know. So to have a community of researchers that actually are interested to hear the information that's found, it's something that it's a feeling that can't be explained. And to see the growth of everybody here. I mean, man, some people here have they've been here since day one, or they came in at some point and we've gotten to know each other. And some of you have become absolutely amazing. You were already great people, but you become absolutely amazing researchers and amazing people. I've seen people, grow mentally, spiritually, research wise. And it's just a very special group of people to be a part of, in my opinion, here on this channel. So it's always my honor. I mean that with the utmost sincerity. It's my honor to be a part of the group. All right. So I appreciate all of you here, man. Thank you so much for being here. Just want to say that. So this article is from the cryptobasic.com and it is titled XRP forms Golden Cross after 3 years. All right. Eyes a major rally. It says XRP is showing bullish signs despite the downtrend observed over the past month. Notably, XRP has plummeted 36% from the high of 93 cents on July the 13th. However, the asset recently formed a golden cross on the 3-day chart for the first time in 3 years. Mac Attack, a prominent XRP community figure, first highlighted the bullish pattern in a recent tweet. The influencer cited data source from a chart provided by a TradingView user, CoinChartist. Scroll down here. It says, referencing information from the chart, Mac Attack emphasized that the recent golden cross is the third one in XRP's entire history. He asserted that the emergence of the cross could catalyze a prolonged, unprecedented bull run. Ah, yes. Now that's what I like to hear. Whether it happens or not, who knows? I don't know. But the prospects of it, muy linda, mi gente. I like it. I like it. All right, so it says historical trend. Notably, Mac Attack's assertion is supported by historical trends witnessed on the 3-day chart. Interestingly, each time XRP observed the golden cross, an impressive price surge ensued. Bring it on, bring it on. It says the first time XRP saw the cross was April 2017 when it was changing hands at 2 cents. The asset registered an impressive rally afterwards, surging by a massive 12,437%. That is good. G-O-O-O-D. Wait, what? G-O-O-D. I put in 3 O's. Why would you let me do that? I'll blame it on you guys out there. I am. To the all-time high of $3.31. We got to have some fun around here, right? January 2018. The cross occurred again in December 2020 when the U.S. SEC brought charges against Ripple, alleging that XRP was redacted. We're not even going to say that word. I don't even need to put that energy out there. They can generate their own negative energy. We don't need to put that out there. So now we get to stellar news. Oh, yeah. Talk that stellar news to me. This is from finbowl.com. Yeah. And it's titled 5. Put my hand all in your face. Sorry about that. Got too close. 5 factors that could send Stellar to $1 sweet dollar. Oh yeah. Let's look at these factors. This is going to be interesting. Let me see what they have to say. It says, despite temporary consolidation in the crypto market, Stellar XLM, one of the big dogs, one of the giants, sleeping giants. I haven't heard that said in a while. I used to like when people say that, and it is true. It says, has been recording gains on all of its charts, growing its value nearly 100% since the year's turn, and sparking hopes it could overtake its all-time high and even proceed toward $1. Says, that said, Finbold has analyzed the main factors that could lead this cryptocurrency toward hitting psychologically important level of $1. I don't know what it is about this article. It's throwing me off. Let me enlarge it a little bit. I think it's the font. The font is tiny. It says, bearing in mind that its all-time high of 88 cents reached back in January 2018 is 529% higher than the price of Stellar at press time. So now they're going into this stuff. This article is a little bit strange how they wrote it. It says increased use for micropayments. Small payments, typically less than $1, are often used to pay for things like online content, subscriptions, and gaming, but traditional payment processors like PayPal and Western Union have high fees for them, making these processors impractical for these uses. It says thanks to his low fees, around 0.00001 XLM, or only a fraction of a cent, and fast transaction processing, Stellar Network is a good choice for micropayments, making it a potential competitor to the above traditional payment processors. Should it continue to gain more traction in this market, it could drive up the price of XLM. Then it says remittance growth. Considering that the remittance market is a multi-billion-dollar industry, as citizens working abroad are a lifeline for many countries around the globe, Stellar is very well positioned to capture a significant portion of it thanks to its speed, scalability, and low cost. It says, indeed, the volume of money that migrants send to their families and friends in their home countries is growing rapidly, particularly as there are hundreds of millions of international migrants, with the expectation that their number will continue to grow in the coming years. Increased institutional adoption, which we have seen. We've seen good strides this year. Wisdom Tree, Franklin Templeton. Says, in addition to being suitable for micropayments, Stellar's above mentioned qualities in cross-border payments make it a popular choice for banks and other financial institutions seeking to hop on the blockchain technology bandwagon. As a matter of fact, Stellar has teamed up with multiple high-profile banking institutions across the years, including the Central Bank of Brazil, Western Union, International Business Machine Corps, and Stripe. Continuation of such practices could help boost the demand for XLM and, with it, push its price higher. Next one, FOMO, fear of missing out. In the crypto market, FOMO can be a powerful force in creating a sense of urgency among investors, and it could also be a factor in the price of XLM. Specifically, as the price of Stellar's cryptocurrency gradually increases, it could attract more buyers who are afraid of missing out on the potential gains, driving the demand and price of XLM. Let me just stick in there that every time XRP goes up, XLM goes up as well. So the higher XRP goes, the higher XLM can potentially go. So I just want to stick that in there. It says, for instance, people might experience FOMO with Stellar because of its status as a well-known digital asset with a large community of users, as such having the potential to reach a wider audience than some of its competitors. Well, also, if there's a proper catalyst, that could also help as well. And it definitely could. Like when you go all the way back, I know things have changed since then, but if you look at what happened with IBM, heck, that was a heck of a time. And that was during the bull run, beautiful time for XLM holders, in my humble opinion. So if you have something like that again, where they're directly using Stellar Protocol, some huge company or something like that, which first I think we would have to get through these regulatory loopholes and regulatory jump over these hurdles, get rid of these burdens, and then you might see something like that happen. That could also make the price go up. But just my humble opinion. It says here, moreover, its range of real-world use cases, such as for remittances and micropayments, also has the potential to spark this fear and XLM buying pressure. We're going to leave off there. We're not going to cover the rest. If you want to read the rest, go to finbold.com. They have a lot more there. This is a great article here. So now let's move on here, all right? Let's see if this pops up here for me. I don't know what it is about Twitter. Oh, my Twitter always has to reload. So now, we have a little bit of Algorand news. Keep doing good, Algorand. This is from, it was retweeted by Algorand from Folks Finance. It says, introducing Folks Router, our in-house DEX aggregator, leveraging Algorand's high-performance capabilities. The Folks Router combines and optimizes liquidity. People have no idea how much, liquidity is going to be needed. And optimization of liquidity is going to be needed. Follow the money. Look at what's happening in the U.S. banking system. It's terrible. They're telling everyone this directly. No one's listening. So this is why all the bank coins are honing in on liquidity, the ability to gather it, the ability to optimize it, certain different mechanisms to stabilize price if you're using this for payments and such like that, and not just holding the asset. I mean, they're making this very, very easy for when the time is right. So anyway, it says optimizes liquidity of existing DEXs, facilitating a more efficient trading experience. So that's very good. Algorand continues to move forward, continues to do very, very good things. And all the companies building on Algorand continue to move forward strongly. And that's going to equate to a much bigger future than what we saw before in the last bull run. And in the last bull run, we lived through multiple Algorand explosions. Check the charts. And people made disgusting gains. Hopefully in the next one, I think is going to be even bigger. Not financial advice. All right. So now let's move on here to another article. So now this one here, and this is what I was saying about bonds. I'm giving you as much information as I can today. And all of it is very, very key to the future. This is from mortgagenewsdaily.com, and it's titled, Bonds Can't Catch a Break. Says this week was supposed to be all about CPI confirming or rejecting the notion that core inflation was finally falling into line. A reading at or below the forecast would ostensibly have done that, but bonds managed to sell off abruptly that afternoon. Now today, a modest 0.1% beat in producer prices, a far less relevant report, resulted in additional selling. One might be forced to conclude that selling is happening for reasons that transcend the data, despite the persistent cries of, quote, data dependent, unquote, from the Fed and those who hang on their every word. All right, so now let's move on to the next one here. A lot of crazy stuff going on with bonds. People better beware. I'm telling you, there's heavy implications with this. Now, this is another article. This is from FT Financial Times, FT.com. And what does it say? Bonds are no longer the safe option. Let's scroll down here. It says bond investors have been on the rack in recent days and weeks, so much so that you have to ask why economists and professional investors continue to refer to government bonds as safe and risk-free investments. I've been asking that same question, but let's continue on. Relative to supposedly riskier equities. Says the charge against the government's IOUs is pretty, I can't say that word on YouTube, redacted. Says take the U.S. Treasury market, regarded as the safest bolt hole on the planet. But the return on U.S. Treasuries in 2022 was minus 17.8%, compared with minus 18% on stocks in the S&P 500 index. Fractionally safer than to the point of meaninglessness. Clearly, bonds offer no diversification relative to equities. So yes, bonds offer a contractually fixed income and in the corporate market rank before equities in a winding up. Yet the reality is that bonds and equities are both risky and with nuanced differences. In 2023 so far, U.S. equities have wiped the floor relative to bonds. This is partly illusory because the bounce in both the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ indices has been driven almost exclusively by the 7 biggest technology companies. Quite a turnaround. At the start of the year, the conventional wisdom was that rising interest rates were shrinking with present value of tech companies' future income streams, since higher interest income today reduces the attraction of dollar earnings in the time ahead. In effect, this seemingly ineluctable mathematical logic has been overwritten by the power of the artificial intelligence story. The enthusiasm for AI reflects a level of market euphoria uncomfortably reminiscent of the dot-com bubble. And I'll also say crypto as well. So I'm just inserting that. It says when tech stocks showed stellar performance in the face of tightening monetary policy. In the meantime, fears of recession are in retreat. Is not a they can say recession all they want. We've been in a recession. That's not highlighted by all the banks closing, all the stores closing, people getting fired from their jobs, the massive wave of bankruptcies happening. That doesn't indicate we've been in a recession? Really? Right. Okay. But to return to bonds, the great bull market, this is my opinion, But the great bull market that started in the 1980s is clearly over, and recent nervousness has many causes ranging from the Fitch rating agency downgrade of U.S. Treasuries to worries about endemic budget deficits and the withdrawal of Japanese capital from the U.S., a response to the Bank of Japan's loosening of its yield curve control policy. The more fundamental point made by William White, former head of the Monetary and Economic Department of the Bank of International Settlements, is that the world is moving from an age of plenty to an age of scarcity. Now, there is a lot more here. I'm going to leave it off there. Once again, this is from FT.com. If you want to read this, it's titled, Bonds Are No Longer the Safe Option. It's a potent one. So now, let's move on here. We're flowing today. We're getting through a lot of articles. We're almost to the end. I want to get through all of these. I know the video is getting a little bit longer, but who cares about that? People can hit the chapters that are potent for them, that's necessary for them. I'm trying to get them the best information possible. Right? And then after that, I feel good. I feel like I did my job. This article here, we're going to skip that one. This article here is from WashingtonPost.com. And it's titled, Unluckiest Generation Falters and Boomers Dominated Market for Homes. So I want to continue to cover these types of things, right? Because it has a huge implication about the economy and what's happening, what's going on. It says here, after only a few months, Chris Swanson is sick of shopping for houses in what the 39-year-old calls a quote, unquote, dumpster fire of a market for first-time buyers like himself. Says, though he has a steady job, has paid off his student loans, it feels like he's 2 decades late. He missed out on rock-bottom interest rates, and homes are far more expensive. Landing on the one property that will fit his needs and his budget is daunting enough. But there's also pressure to move fast. Quote, I'm in that weird position, unquote, said Swanson, a marketing professional struggling. That's crazy. A marketing professional from Mentor, Ohio. Home ownership, the main driver of wealth for most Americans, is out of reach for large swaths of the population. But the pinch is most pronounced for millennials, who are buying homes at a slower pace than those before them. Baby boomers, in fact, represented the largest share of home buyers this year, a spot millennials had held since 2014, according to research by the National Association of Realtors. Quote, boomers are absolutely in the driver's seat, unquote, said Jessica Lautz, deputy chief economist at NAR, because they have built up home equity and can pay in cash. Quote, unfortunately, that has pushed many millennials to the sidelines, unquote. It says those born between 1981 and 1996 have been called the, quote, unluckiest generation, unquote. Since entering the workforce, they've experienced the slowest economic growth of any age group. They've also been weighed down by student debt and child care costs, Laut said. Rising interest rates, persistently high asking prices have further eroded their buying power. The median U.S. home sold for $416,100 in second quarter of 2023. Really? That's interesting. A 26% jump since early 2020. Federal Reserve data shows. Median sales prices were significantly higher in the Northeast, $789,600. That makes a lot of sense in my humble opinion. If you see some of these prices on some of these houses, yeah, it makes a lot of sense in my opinion. It says, and the West, $547,900. That's interesting. Anyway, we'll discuss that another time. Let's keep going. Meanwhile, the average 30-year fixed rate mortgage is now hovering near 7%, nearly 3 times the 2.6% recorded early in 2021. We're going to leave off right there. Okay. So now let's move on here. So we're going to end off right here with this article from therealdeal.com, and it's titled Office Vacancy Surge Caused by Small Fraction of Buildings. It says where the pain is. Report tells tale of 2 office markets vacancy spike largely caused by just 10% of buildings, CBRE finds. It doesn't make a difference what percentage of buildings it is. They can't move that. And so this is going to be a heavy burden on the banks and could take them down. They haven't solved this problem as of yet. Now, I did read an article where I think it was some places in Florida, they have already begun attempting to turn this empty office space into apartments. But once again, I ask, who's going to be buying those apartments? Right? I'm reading article after article. People just don't have the capital for these very expensive apartments, and to the point where a lot of U.S. citizens are they're looking at what they call like RVs, like they're like the mobile homes, things like that. You have a lot of articles promoting van life. There's people living in their vans and things like that. So it's telling me that the people just don't have capital for things like this. But anyway, let's read this little tidbit here. It says, amid all the terrible news about the office market, here's an interesting stat. When the redacted hit, 71% of office buildings were more than 90% leased. Today, 66% are that full. The comparison from a CBRE report is a glass half full way of looking at an office sector facing an unprecedented challenge. The discovery that many people enjoy working from home can do so effectively and will retire or find another job if forced back to the office. So they haven't solved that problem either, although they're trying to force people to do so. So now the glass half empty stat. From the same report, office vacancy was 18.2% last quarter, the worst in 30 years, and is expected to continue creeping up. Keep in mind, this is all while they have no solution. But this is a tale of two markets. I even read articles where people were quoted as saying they were willing to take a pay cut in order to not go back to the office. So there you have that. So according to the analysis, the vast majority of office buildings are not much worse off than they were before the redacted. Is that so? I guess if that's the data you're looking at, that's not what's being said out there. That's not how it's being felt as well. There's a lot of different variables, but let's continue. The pain, meanwhile, is concentrated in certain kinds of buildings and geographic areas. Only 10% of all U.S. offices account for 80% of the occupancy decreases since the redacted, the commercial real estate brokerage calculated. The troubled buildings tend to be older and in downtown submarkets with few restaurants and relatively high crime, CBR said. And the cities with struggling office markets tend to be expensive ones such as New York and San Francisco, where tenant demand plunged during the redacted, and those with high concentrations of tech workers who are more likely to work from home. Think Salt Lake City, Minneapolis, and Los Angeles. In pricey markets, only about half of buildings, between 45 and 55%, are more than 90% leased. Part of that is their vulnerability to work from home, and part is from their having a lot of old, unrenovated buildings where vacancy is pronounced. Buildings that are 90% leased accounted for about half of total office space in the second quarter, compared with 62% in the first quarter 2020. CBRE report predicts the U.S. office vacancy rate to peak at 19.7%. They're in trouble. They're in big trouble. And I keep in mind that they always undersell the percentage. It probably will be a little bit higher. It says at the end of next year, as economic headwinds and office using job losses exacerbate the workplace exodus, I think a lot of those companies are going to have to take the knee as well and bend the knee to workers who are refusing to come back. As like I said, I don't know if they're going to hold firm to this. A lot of workers are saying, hey, we're not going back to the office. We'll take a pay cut. We'll leave. We'll go somewhere else to work. We'll do other things. I mean, how do you respond to that as a company? Do you really, if they hold firm to that, a lot of workers, are you really willing to lose business and capital rather than just compromise and say, okay, let's find a medium where you can work from home? So if they have to do that, I mean, things are going to get a little bit worse, and those banks are going to feel it, who are heavy in commercial real estate loans. That could definitely take them down. They don't want to consolidate. So then how does that affect the deployment of the new financial system? Since they're going to need liquidity, there definitely are traceability of things like that. So now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? I know what I'm going to do with it. So until next time, let's get to the money.